The Merchant of Venice, Act 1, Scene 1, Part 2. So, before we start Part 2, let us revise what we did in Part 1. Where does the scene take place? The scene takes place in a street in Venice. And who are the characters present? Antonio, who is a royal merchant, Salerio, and Solanio, who are alternatively in some books named as Salarino and Salanio. Salarino and Salanio, or Salerio and Solanio, are friends of Antonio and Bassanio. So Antonio is a royal merchant, and when the scene starts, Antonio is sad, and Antonio states six reasons for his sadness. He tells six things about his sadness. He says, number one, he did not know why he was so sad. Number two, he admits that sadness annoyed him as well as his companions. Number three, he says how he came across it he does not know. Number four, he did not know the matter of his sadness nor the origin of his sadness. Number 5, he says that sadness had reduced him to a fool. And number 6, he says that he had difficulty in recognizing himself, or he had lost his natural touch. Salerio, or you can say Salarino, consoles his friend Antonio by stating that your sadness is very natural, so you should not be depressed about it. It is very common. Anybody having such huge investments abroad would be preoccupied with the thoughts related to his business. So he says that you are agitated about the merchant ships that are voyaging in different countries. And then he goes on to elaborate how magnificent Antonio's ships were, to show that his ships were big and they included huge investments. So how does he praise Antonio's ships? Number 1, portly sails. Number 2, compares them to men of status and wealthy citizens of the ocean. Number 3, states that his ships were delightful spectacles of the oceans. Number 4, states that his ships overpeer the other merchant boats. Number 5, he says that the other merchant boats, the smaller merchant boats, they bowed in respect. And number 6, Antonio's ships flew past the other merchant boats as if they had woven wings. Antonio's friend Salerio has consoled him. अब उसका दूसरा फ्रेंड जो था सोलानियो, वो भी कंसोल करने के लिए वो क्या बोला? Believe me, sir. Believe in what I am saying. Trust me. Had I such venture forth. So you again hear some rhythm here. Had I such venture forth, because this was a play to be presented on the stage. But for our academic purpose, how will we interpret it? We'll take it as, if I had such venture forth. Forth means abroad, outside. So venture means risky business enterprise or undertaking. So if I had such risky business abroad, then the better part of my affections means emotions, thoughts. So better part means prime, that means prime thoughts. So my prime thoughts, I would always be preoccupied. My prime thoughts would be with my ships abroad, with my hopes abroad, my ships bearing the hopes. That means if there is some hope, there is risk related to that hope as well. So he says, indirectly, hopes means risk. So be with my hopes abroad, then my prime thoughts would be related to the risks that might happen to my venture, to my ships abroad, my ships which are traveling abroad. I should be still means always, plucking the grass, plucking the blades of grass and releasing them from a height to know the direction of the wind, because the blades of grass would get drifted by the wind. So I would always be plucking the blades of grass to know where sits the wind. Sits the wind is an example of personification. So I would always be plucking the blades of grass and releasing them from a height to know the direction of the wind. Now why would he be interested in knowing the direction of the wind? Earlier, sails drifted the ship, wind drifted the ship because motors were not there. So a favorable wind would push the ship and help the ship reach the destination earlier, whereas an unfavorable wind means the ships would take longer time to reach the destination. So he would always be plucking the grass to know where sits the wind. So grass to know the direction of the wind. He would always be peering in the maps. Peering means looking intently. He would always be examining the map, looking intently in the maps For ports and piers both means harbors where the ship rests. So ports is a permanent harbor, piers temporary harbor. So I would always be looking for ports and piers. When we journey from Howrah to Delhi, we are so interested in knowing the halts where the train would halt. So very eagerly we look into the map, the train map, to realize the stations that my ships would halt to reach Delhi. Example, so peering in the maps for ports and harbors. Similarly, he would always be looking intently into the maps to know where the harbors are and what route my ships would be taking. So two things you would always be doing, that is number one, plucking the blades of grass to know the direction of the wind, and number two, intently looking into the maps to know where the ports are, where the harbors are. And in this way, every object that might be an element of risk, example winds, waves, that might make me fear my misfortune to my ventures. So any element of risk would arouse fear and risk. Okay, that might make me fear that some misfortune might happen to my ventures. Out of doubt certainly would make me sad. So any element of risk coming to my mind would make me sad. Now Salerio, he supports what Solanio had said, and he says that I would also be. Now why wind cooling my broth? Wind means breath. When I would blow to cool my soup, broth means soup. We blow to cool the soup before we drink the soup is very hot. So if I would blow to cool the soup, my breath would remind me of the storms, the ship-wrecking storms, the ship-wrecking storms. So I would be reminded of the shipwrecking storms. How would he be reminded of the shipwrecking storms? When he would blow to cool his broth, when he would blow to cool his soup, his breath would remind him of the shipwrecking storms. And the moment he would be reminded of the shipwrecking storms, he would imagine how his ships would drown. And that would make him shiver with fear. Blow me to an ague matlab, shiver with fear. Blow me to an ague means shiver with fear. What would make him shiver with fear? When he would blow to cool his soup, his breath would remind him of the shipwrecking storms and he would shiver with fear. So blow me to an ague. Now ague is a shivering fever. What is ague? Ague is a shivering fever. That means I would shiver like a person. I would shiver like a person suffering from ague. But a person suffering from ague shivers out of fever. He would shiver out of fear. When I thought matlab when I would be reminded. How would he be reminded? His breath would remind him. What harm a wind too great, sea storms, shipwrecking storms. What harm they might at sea cause to his ships, might do to his ships, might cause his ships. I should not see the sandy hourglass run but. So we will have such repetitions, not and but. So not and but get cancelled in a negative way. We speak in a negative way to emphasize. So what is the use of speaking in a negative way? Negative sentences are used to emphasize. So he says, I should not see, matlab whenever I would see. I should not see means whenever I would see. The sandy hourglass run. So earlier we had hourglasses like this, sand trickling from one section to the other section. So he says that when I would see the sand trickling in the hourglass, when I would see the sand trickling in the sand hourglass, run means trickle, I would immediately be reminded. So don't go by these expressions, but I should think, because this is a dramatic expression and this is a rhythm, because the play would be presented on the stage. So we have nothing to do with such expressions, but what we can decipher, what we can interpret from here is that whenever I would see the sand trickling in the hourglass, I would immediately be reminded of shallows and flats. Now shallows and flats, not all regions in the sea are deep. The sea is very risky, very precarious, very mysterious. Even in the middle of the sea, there are regions which are flat. So no one can even imagine that in the middle of the sea, there is a shallow region. But there are some deposits of sand, so much that they cause a sand hillock, below the sea surface. So we call them sandbanks or shoals, and they are present where? In very risky parts, where a sailor would think that this part is deep, but it's not deep. Why? Because below the sea surface is the sandbank. So you don't have to explain that much, just realize sandbanks. So what would the trickling sand in the hourglass remind him of? The trickling sand in the hourglass would immediately remind him of the sandbanks or the shallow regions in the sea, shallows and flats, the flat and shallow regions in the sea, and instantly he would imagine his wealthy Andrew. Andrew is just a hypothetical name of a ship. He gives an example. This is a universal example, Andrew. So just now, Andrew was the common name of ships during those time. So I would see my wealthy Andrew. So remember why and what is Andrew? It is just a name, a hypothetical name indicating universally. That means any ship. I would see my wealthy Andrew. I would imagine my wealthy Andrew, my ship carrying rich cargo, my ship carrying rich cargo. So I would imagine my ship carrying rich cargo docked in sand. Docked in sand matlab trapped in sand, stuck in sand. So if the ship gets stuck in sand, what will happen? Sand means in the sandbank. What will happen? It will get stuck and overturned. What will happen? Overturned. Ulat jayega. Overturned. Whaling means lowering her top, lower than the ribs matlab sides. सो टॉप जो है वो उलट जाएगा, साइड्स ऊपर की तरफ आ जाएगा. दैट मीन्स इस पूरे एक्सप्रेशन का मतलब है ओवरटर्न. तो व्हाट वुड हैपन व्हेन यू वुड सी द सैंड ट्रिकलिंग इन द आवर-ग्लास? द सैंड ट्रिकलिंग इन द आवर-ग्लास वुड रिमाइंड हिम ऑफ द सैंडबैंक्स, एंड ही वुड इंस्टेंटली इमेजिन इफ हिज शिप got trapped in the sand, it would overturn and get buried in the sandbank in a while. So after some time, to kiss her burial. Kiss her burial, here her matlab ship, and this is another example of personification. To kiss her burial, that is buried in sand, and the ship would get buried in sand. So first example we have about the soup or breath. So how his breath would remind him of the storms, shipwrecking storms. Number two, we have sandy hourglass. So the sand trickling in the hourglass would remind him of the sandbanks. So buried in kiss her burial, buried in sand, that sandbank will become the grave of my ship. Should I go to church? Again you see the rhythm, but it means whenever I would go to the church. So third example is of church. Whenever I would go to church and see the holy edifice of stone. Edifice means building. So whenever I would go to church and whenever I would see the holy building made of stone. So church is a building made of stone. Whenever I would go to the church and see the holy edifice of stone, see the holy building of stone, and not bethink me, not bethink matlab reminded, not reminded, it is just a negative expression. He says I would certainly be reminded. What does he want to say? I would certainly be reminded, I would immediately be reminded. So how would he immediately be reminded? Whenever he would see the building of stone, that stone would immediately remind him of the danger. Straight means immediately, of dangerous rocks. Now just as there are sandbanks precariously hiding beneath the sea surface, similarly there are small hillocks. Just as there are hills rising from the earth's level to up above, similarly there are many hills which rise from the sea bed to the sea surface, but they remain hidden beneath the sea surface. So they are dangerous rocks. They hide beneath the sea surface and they might be present anywhere. So even in the deeper regions of the ocean, suddenly you find there is a hillock. So for example, glacier, just like a hillock was hidden, Titanic struck that and Titanic got drowned. So that was another example of, that was not rock, but that was an iceberg which lay hidden beneath the surface and nobody could predict that there is an iceberg there. So, and not bethink me straight, that is, I would immediately be reminded of dangerous rocks hiding beneath the surface of the sea, which touching my gentle vessel's side. If my ship just touched those rocks, striking, so if my ship struck those rocks, my gentle vessel means ship, gentle means fragile means very weak, which can easily be broken. Now why such a big ship has been termed as such fragile? To show that everything is fragile in presence of nature. So elements of nature makes everything weak. Even a big ship seems fragile when compared to the to nature. So my fragile ship, my gentle ship, if it struck my gentle ship's side, it would scatter all her spices. Spice is an example of cargo. Spices, for example, if my ships are carrying spices, so would scatter all the cargo on the stream, on the ocean, and enrobe the roaring waters. Enrobe means cover. The roaring waters means violent waves with my silk. Silk is another example of cargo. So that means all my cargo would be scattered on the ocean. And in a word, even now worth this. Just a while ago, my ship, which was so worthy, which was so valuable, and now worth nothing. In now means the moment it would strike those dangerous rocks. Now, in a while, it would become worthless. So my ships would be entirely destroyed. So he gives 3 examples here. So first he gives the example of breath. Second, he gives the example of sand, and third he gives the example of church. So when he would blow to cool his soup, his breath would remind him of the shipwrecking storms. When he would see the sand trickling in the hourglass, the sand would remind him of the sandbanks and shallows where his ship, if it gets stuck, it would get overturned and buried. When he sees the holy building of the church, the stone would remind him of the dangerous rocks hiding beneath the surface of the ocean. And if his ships just struck any of those rocks, all the cargo like silk and spice would scatter on the ocean. His ship would disintegrate, his ship would collapse, break, and in a while his ship, which was so worthy, would become worthless. So he says that my ships, which were so worthy a while ago, would become worthless if his ships strike any of those hidden rocks. Shall I have the thought to think on this? So इसमें बहुत confusion है इन सारे ये particular speech में, but इसको बहुत easily समझना. यहाँ पे ये बहुत इमोशनल हो गया और इसीलिए क्या है इतना पोइटिक वे में प्रेजेंट कर रहा है. वो बोल रहा है कि द मोमेंट आई शैल हैव सच थॉट. क्या बोल रहा है? द मोमेंट आई शैल हैव सच थॉट. एंड शैल आई लैक द थॉट. लैक द थॉट मतलब हाउ कैन आई अवॉइड थिंकिंग अबाउट द रिस्क्स. सो क्या बोल रहा है इन 2 लाइन्स में? द मोमेंट आई शैल हैव सच थॉट्स अबाउट विंड, अबाउट रॉक्स, अबाउट शैलो sandbanks, the moment I shall have thoughts about shipwrecking storms, the moment I shall have thoughts about shallow regions in the ocean, and the moment I shall have thoughts about the moment I shall have thoughts about the precarious rocks, the moment I shall have such thoughts, how can I avoid thinking about the risks? Shall I lack the thought? So can I avoid the thought about the risks? That I cannot avoid the thought that if such a thing happened, such a thing be chanced, if such a thing happened by chance, would it not make me sad? So what does he say? He says that the moment I shall breathe, my breath will remind me of the shipwrecking storms. The moment I would see the sand trickling in the hourglass, I would be reminded of the sandbanks. And the moment I would see this holy building of the church made of stone, it would remind me of the dangerous rocks. Now tell me, the moment I am reminded about the wind, the storms, the sandbanks and the precarious rocks, how can I avoid thinking that if such a thing happened to my ship by chance, I would face a great loss, I would be ruined, and definitely such a thought would make me sad. But tell not me. Tell not me means this not again यहाँ पे negative है. बोल रहा है tell not me. That means you cannot deny. Tell not me मतलब you cannot deny. That means you have to accept. You have to admit. What do you have to admit? That I know Antonio, you are sad to think upon his merchandise. Antonio is sad to think upon his merchandise. Again you see rhythm, drama. So Antonio is sad. That means you are sad to think upon your merchandise. Merchandise होता है ऐसे cargo, but यहाँ पे क्या है? Business venture. Okay, so you would be worried about your business ventures. So friends, फिर से रिवाइज करते हैं. अंटोनियो अपने सैडनेस के बारे में क्या बोला? Number 1, he did not know why he was sad. Number 2, he says that sadness was annoying. to him as well as his companions. Number 3, he did not know how he came across this sadness. Number 4, he did not know the matter of the sadness, and he did not know how the sadness or from where the sadness originated. Number 5, he admits that sadness had reduced him to a fool. He was behaving in a very foolish way by remaining sulky all the time. Sulky मतलब मुंह फुला के रहना. And number 6, he says that he had lost his natural touch. Now his friend Salerio consoles him by saying that your mind is preoccupied by the agitated thoughts related to the business. He goes on to praise that your ships have heavy investments and they are royal and big by stating that number 1, portly sail. Number 2, he states that they are like the rich burghers, or you can say the noble citizens of the ocean. Number 3, they are like some delightful spectacles or pageants. Number 4, they overpeer the petty traffickers. And number 5, so number 5 is the other merchant boats, they bow in respect. And number 6, your ships have such big sails that they sail swiftly past the other merchant boats. Now it's the turn of another friend, Solanio, who consoles him by saying that if I had such business forth abroad, my prime thoughts would be with my hopes abroad, with the risk related to the business. And then he goes on to state that he would be plucking the grass to know the direction of the wind. Number 2, he says he would be peering into the map to know where the ports and harbors are and which route his ships would be taking. Now it's the turn of the first friend again. So you can remember what Salerio said. Salerio was the first one to give the example of the first one to praise Antonio's ships. And then Salerio he tells about breath, sand and church. तो याद रखना, Salerio के नीचे लिख देना he praises Antonio's ship, and Salerio के नीचे फिर लिख देना he tells about breath, sand and church, because I said कि Salerio and Solanio में बहुत confusion होगा, but अगर आप लोग इस तरह से याद करोगे तो बहुत easy हो जाएगा. तो Salerio पहला क्या बोला? Salerio पहला Antonio के ships को praise किया, और Salerio second क्या है? Salerio talks about breath and sand and church. और सोलानियो बीच में. सो अभी तक सोलानियो का खाली एक स्पीच आया है. तो सोलानियो क्या बोला है? सोलानियो टॉक्स अबाउट ग्रास एंड सोलानियो टॉक्स अबाउट ग्रास एंड Solanio talks about grass and Solanio talks about maps. So Salerio says that when he would blow to cool his soup, his breath would remind him of the shipwrecking storms. When he would see the sand trickling in the hourglass, the sand would remind him of the sandbanks, and immediately he would imagine his wealthy ship stuck in the sandbank and overturned and buried in the sandbank. When he would go to the church, the holy building of the church made of stone would remind him of the dangerous rocks hidden beneath the surface of the ocean, and if his ship struck any of such rocks, all the cargo would be scattered and his ships, which were so worthy a while ago, would become worthless. So I hope this revision helps you. You need to keep revising again and again, because as I said that it is a play 100 pages or 110 pages. So in this way, if you keep remembering the points, it will be very easy. You will never forget these things. So I hope you liked this video. Thank you so much for watching.